How would you describe it?
Just watch what you say. We're recording now. So, at any rate, we want to keep Gary in our prayers. And Gary, if you're listening, you're in our prayers. And, well, this is lesson number 139. We're going to do maybe 3 chapters of Isaiah, depending on how far I get. It's been 3 weeks since I've done anything, and well, I got too much up here, but we'll see how it goes. At any rate. So we'll review chapters 10 and 11.
Catch up all at once.
It might take me an hour to catch up. I don't have a sign of the times, but I got some scriptures of the day, and I think you'll be interested in. And then we'll do Isaiah 11 and 12 for sure, and maybe 13. And so before we get started, we'll open with a word of prayer. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, our creator and maker, and the one in whom we live and move and have our being. We're grateful again for another week that you've given us to exist here on this planet. And every week we just realize how much we rely on you for everything in this life. And we bring before you now our brother Gary, who is suffering with this malady known to you. And we just ask for healing, that before that surgeon touches him, that you would heal his body completely, and that this would be a great and wonderful sign that you are in control of all things, great and small. And now we ask your blessing on our class, and we invoke your Holy Spirit to be here among us, that as we consider these words of yours, that you would just open up what you need for us to hear. And we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. Yeah. This may be a lot shorter than we had planned. I don't know what this allergy is that's going around, but it's about to kill me. I've had it now for 3 weeks. I thought it, eventually it's supposed to get better, isn't it? Well, anyway. Reviewing chapter 10, the question comes up, what will the evil ones do when the day of punishment comes? Based on our understanding, that day is coming pretty quick. What do? Well, you dig a hole in the ground and you hide. Call the mountains to fall down upon you. And guess what? They will. But you will not be protected, because when that day comes, there will be only one source of safety and salvation, and that is Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach. Those who are in him need not worry. Those who are not, you got big worries. God uses nations to accomplish his purposes. And he uses Assyria. He says they are a rod of the anger of God against a godless nation. God, looking at Israel today, would say, pretty much, they're a godless nation. And correction is coming. And 3 weeks ago, when we saw that map of ancient Assyria, Iran is right in there. I believe that Iran is going to be that country which initiates this, rod of correction coming to Israel. And of course, Assyria believes that it's successful because it's smart. We're not dumb like the rest of these nations, when in fact, they are only like a tool in the hand of God. He does with them what he wants. And as soon as he's accomplished that purpose, well, he turns his attention back on the rod, and his indignation will at one point be directed against them. But as a result of this foray of ancient Assyria, which is modern day Iran, Iraq, southern Turkey, Transjordan, Syria, that whole region of the world there. At the end, God's indignation will be directed at them, and they will not rely on treaties with these people or hopes for peace. Peace is what they want. They'll do anything for peace. But guess what? All they needed to do was rely on the Lord. He would have wiped them all out. But they didn't. They're going to do it themselves. So after all of this, correction of Israel, then God will direct his indignation towards Assyria. And that'll kick off a 1,000-year period in which the earth will return to its original state, the Garden of Eden, and they will be led by a little child. And that little child might be me and thee, yes.
I was thinking when talking about godless nations, what's going on in Israel a couple of weeks ago, they had the largest homosexual group in several thousands of
Yes, this world has just gone nuts. That's all you can say. 50 years ago, that would never happen. Not in this country, not in that one.
Well, it won't happen in Iran.
That's right. They'll take care of the problem. Yeah, that's take care of it for sure. We're going to revisit Isaiah 66, and I think we have come up with the solution here to Isaiah 66 in contrast with Revelation 12. The sound of noise of the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of the Lord, who fully repays his enemies. Before she was in labor, she gave birth. Before her pain came, she delivered a male child. We have sitting here scratching our head trying to figure out who she is. Well, it was right there all along. I just missed it. Who has heard such a thing? Who has seen such things? Shall the earth be made to give birth in one day? It's the earth is the she. We kept trying to force Israel into this thing. Or shall a nation be born at once? And then it talks to another subject. For as soon as Zion was in labor, she gave birth to her children. What is the labor? That's tribulation. The whole planet is going to be in tribulation. But before that tribulation, she gives birth to a male child. And that male child, who is, well, a nation, we know from 1 Peter that you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. We, me and thee, Christians, those who have put their faith in Yeshua HaMashiach, our nation, a holy nation. We got a job to do. And in Revelation 12 it says, now I saw a great sign in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, the moon was under her feet, and her head was a garland of 12 stars. We know that is a mark in time, September 23rd, 2017. Then, being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. The explanation of this is that 12-star entity is a representation of Israel. Israel is in pain. It's the people. And where is Israel located? All over the earth, right? And how is it that the church is in pain right now? Well, if you're in the Middle East, you're in pain. If you're alive, you're in pain. Because your life is being threatened at the very moment. Those crazy ISIS people love to catch Christians and cut their heads off.
Turkey was confiscating 2 monasteries, all 1,500 years old from Christians.
The church right now is in great pain. I don't know about you, but if you look at where our country's going and you're a Christian, you've got to be in pain. If you, in your personal life, I don't know about you, but I know almost everybody here has got pain in their own personal life. And it's in pain that we see around, like Janadol. My God, those people have been in pain. And for no, how do you explain that? People who have put their lives in the hands of God and are being used by Him, and yet they have such great personal tragedy. Yes.
Probably undoubtedly means about the same thing, but I see you got Gara in there instead of Crown.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I mean, what's the difference?
Well, this is the New King James Version. The King James would put crown there, and to contrast the two, I'm not sure that there's much difference other than to say.
That was that fellow that did the original video way back there. We saw a couple of years ago. He made a big issue of it looking like a crown. The stars look like a crown. But to me, Ireland would be more
It looks like a garland to me, because if you look at where the stars are situated, they're all over the place.
They got to stretch it a little bit to look like a crown.
Yeah, garland would seem to be more reasonable. But we know that the sign is Virgo, and Virgo, we know, is a symbol of Israel. And we do know that Israel, because if you look at the sign of Virgo, the first decan of Virgo is Coma the child, which is a virgin woman sitting down in a chair with a child. Virgin with child. Gee, I wonder what that means. Well, the tragedy of this whole thing is most of the church is completely ignorant of what the stars are, what the zodiac is. Satan has done a marvelous job of confusing the issue. You go to the paper and you look at the signs of the zodiac. First thing you say is, well, that's a bunch of malarkey, and which it is. But it has been perverted. Satan does a fine job of perverting things. The original gospel was in the stars. No doubt God told Adam, and he said, and laid them all out for him, showed him the star formations. This star formation stands for this one for that. And he passed them on down. And then according to Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 2, that knowledge was passed on by the descendants of Seth until the 7th generation, and there they corrupted them. And that is where I believe that we had astrology jump onto the bandwagon. So Satan, true to form, he corrupted that which would give faith to those who would read and study it. You try to bring this up in general congregation, I'll kick you right out. So, the tail of the dragon drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to earth, and the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And who would that be? Of course, we know who that would be. That would be the church. But one other point here. As soon as a child was born, the dragon is going to strike. What does that mean? I got a feeling as soon as we are out here, planet Earth is going to get hit with a meteor storm par excellence. And they won't care about what happened to you. As far as they know, you went up with the meteors. You got smashed. And I'm thinking that's probably the reason why the world doesn't care. There are not a few million people missing. Well, that's no big deal. There's a million people got killed. Maybe they just got killed somewhere. Can't find them. They're all squashed. But the child was caught up to God in his throne. The very first image that we see in chapter 4 of Revelations is the throne room. And in the throne room, there are 24 priests and kings, a completed set. There are 24 orders of priesthood. The 24 orders are represented there by the 24 priests in the throne room. Yes?
What's the rod of iron? We talked about verse 5 there. The church.
The rod of iron?
Yeah, you think the church will rule?
That's, glad you asked. Revelation chapter 2. Hold fast to what you have. This is the admonition of the church at Thyatira. He who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I will give power over the nations. And he, who's that? The church, will rule them with a rod of iron, and they shall be dashed to pieces like a potter's vessel, as I also have received from my Father, and I will give him the morning star. Basically, we're going to be in charge. And I don't know about you, but I'm not going to bite any foolishness down here.
There was a statue that was made with feet of clay, and it had an iron, part of it was iron, right?
There were legs of iron and feet of iron mixed with clay. And the symbology there is the feet were partly human and partly demonic. And I believe that demonic representation are those little critters that fly around in these UFOs, a Nephilim, or the descendants of the Nephilim.
What was the symbology of the iron legs?
The legs of iron was the Roman Empire. So you got partially clay, meaning partially human. And I interpret the iron mixed with the clay as partly human, partly inhuman.
I always thought about that part about being clay being weak and that it couldn't stand, even though
It's brittle. The word clay is fired clay. It is brittle like pottery. And so, yeah, it's kind of strong, but if you go to push on it very hard, it'll collapse. So there's probably more than one analogy there. But the point is, hey, we know what the iron is. But here's something else that's interesting. Back in Genesis 37, this is Joseph. And he was recalling a story that, well, he saw a vision, and he was relating it to his brothers. And there we were, binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf rose up and stood upright. And indeed, your sheaves all stood around and bowed down to my sheaf. And his brother said to him, shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us? So they hated him even more because of his dreams and his words. And then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers. And he said, look, I have dreamed another dream. This time the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to me. Sun, the moon, and 11 stars. Well, Joseph was the 12th star. And so here we have a tie-in to those 12 stars in Revelation 12. They are the 12 tribes of Israel, but it gets even more interesting. In Genesis 48, old man Israel is blessing the sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh, and he said, let my name be named upon them, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. Who did we decide that Ephraim and Manasseh probably are? Probably the descendants of Great Britain and the United States. And what two nations have been more responsible for evangelization in the world than, who more than Great Britain and the United States? My point here being, it's almost like God is saying, here is Israel in the end times. Not everybody, but the bulk of them are going to be found in Ephraim and Manasseh. And like that vision Joseph had of those sheaves bowing down to him, may very well be true, because you will be a king and a priest over some part of this planet. And you and others will be bowing down to you. How is that for a pretty bizarre ending to this story? But it may be encoded right here. So that's what we're thinking right now. I think we have the answer to how it is that in one case, the woman is not in pain and delivers before, and the other case where the woman, well, the first woman is the earth, the second woman is Israel. And Israel right now, I guarantee you, true Israel, those who have sold out to Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach, they are in pain. This planet hates Christians because we are governed by, basically, the governments of this world are Satan dominated. And the more I hear about our government, I used to think we were free and that we elect the president. Well, guess what? The president doesn't have much to do. It's that state under the government, allegedly, that never changes. That is where all the corruption is. And they control things more than the president does. And President George Bush let the cat out of the bag on one of his talks when somebody was asking him about, why he didn't do this or why he didn't do that. And his comment was, well, President, I can't really do all that much. Indicating that there was something behind him that was really in control. And I saw him once being interviewed about why they invaded Iraq. He could not justify it. And when he asked them, he was asked a direct question, well, where were the weapons of mass destruction? He would not look at the person. He only would look at the ground, and he would say, well, we thought they were there. He knew darn good and well they had been flown out and that they weren't there at the time that we invaded. And that whole thing was manipulated by somebody else. And he had to accept the burden for it. So I believe our country is in control of demonic elements. And even though we think we're a free country, we're not. They're all in control. Like I pointed out, there are 10 discoveries, had they been allowed to proceed, would have changed everything in this country. And those people who have the money now and the power, they wouldn't have it anymore. But that doesn't exist. because they had the ability to thwart it. So, place more evil than what we thought. Moving right along in chapter 11, there shall come forth a rod from the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of its roots. Remember, one of the symbols of the Messiah is a branch, because he will branch out. And a rod or a branch from the stem of Jesse. Remember, who was David's father? Jesse? So Jesse, through David, through the tribe of the Pharaoh's branch of Judah, came the Messiah. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, and the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, and the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight is in the fear of the Lord, and he shall not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide by the hearing of his ears. You would think that this is the Messiah. Ponder the thought. It might be me and thee, too. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and shall decide the equity of the meek on earth, and he shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall slay the wicked. Well, we thought that was uniquely responsibility of the Messiah, but perhaps during the millennial reign, maybe our responsibility. Righteousness shall be the belt of his loins, and faithfulness the belt of his waist. And then we have this phrase, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The little child?
The lion shall lie down with the lamb, is what that should say. That's one of the things on YouTube. Why is that?
Yeah, well, the New King James interprets the lion as a leopard. You can install leopard there if you like.
Well, yeah.
Big old cat, anyway.
Yeah, it's the point being that this is not this is not nature right now. Nature right now is the lion eats the goat, right? And wolves don't lay down with lambs; they eat the lamb. But not in the millennial reign. Things will be returned to its design. And the cow and the bear shall graze, and the young ones shall lay down together. The lion shall eat straw like an ox. Well, there you have it. No more of this carnivore business. I guess carnivores are out of business. The nursing child shall play on the cobra's hole, and the weaned child shall put his hand in the viper's den. Boy, sounds good to me. No more fear snakes. And they shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Entirely different organization of things then as it is now. And there will be a holy mountain. And on that mountain, there will be the Messiah himself. And enthroned in the Holy of Holies, and coming out from the door of that throne or holy place will be living waters. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse who stands as a banner to the people, for the Gentiles will seek him, and his resting place will be glorious. Well, we can't imagine exactly how it's all going to be set up, but we do know there's a great mountain there, and that it will have a canopy over it. It will not be hot, and it won't be cold. It'll be just right, and there will be no death or destruction on that holy mountain at all. And it's going to be the crowning place of the whole world, because the Messiah will. And other passages in Joel, for example, speak of this place and says, so you know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then Jerusalem shall be holy, and no alien shall ever pass through her again. And it will come to pass in that day, now that's the day of the Lord, that the mountains shall drip with new wine, the hills shall flow with milk, and all the brooks of Judah will be flooded with water. And a fountain shall flow from the house of the Lord and water the valley of Acacias. Well, we know there will be a fountain, and that fountain will spew forth Mayim Hayim, which is living water, and all who drink of it will live. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again a second time to recover the remnant of his people who are left from Assyria and Egypt, from Pathros and Cush, from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and the islands of the sea. There is going to be a great gathering. There is going to be literally a rapture of Israel. They are going to be gathered all up and taken back to the land. Guess what? Just what Matthew 24 said. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. That's really not correct. It should be great trumpet sound. If you look up in the Greek, that's the way it should be organized. And they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn a parable from the fig tree. When its branches have already become tender and put forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. When is this? This is at the end of the tribulation. This is not something you are going to see. This is something Israel is going to see. All of Matthew 24 was written in response to a question by Jewish believers asking a Jewish question about times and when the Messiah was going to return. He is going to return at the end of the tribulation. His feet will set down on the Mount of Olives, as recorded in Zechariah 14, and there he will set up camp. There will be a mountain, and apparently he will manufacture the temple himself. And it will not be made with human hands, because almost immediately upon his return, the temple is set up, and I believe between Yom Kippur and Hanukkah, that temple will be built, and on Hanukkah is going to be a great dedication or rededication of the temple at that point. The point here also is that in Isaiah 27, it says, it's going to come to pass that the Lord will thresh from the channel of the brook of Egypt, and you will be gathered one by one, O children of Israel. This is the same gathering. And how do we know that? Because the next verse says, so it will be in that day that the great trumpet will be blown. Tie in back to Matthew 24, and they will come who are about to perish in the land of Assyria, and they who are outcasts in the land of Egypt, and shall worship the Lord in the holy mountain at Jerusalem. Why were they about to perish? Well, I should have put this in, but back in Matthew 24, it said that unless those days were shortened, no life would have survived. I'm convinced that Nibiru and its orbiting planets will be coming on a collision course with Earth. And you will see in the sky day and night a picture of the cross with a bloody spot in the middle, which will be the Nemesis brown dwarf surrounded by stars on the four cardinal points, which are planets, which orbit around that thing. It's going to be the sign of the coming of the Son of Man. And when people see that, they are going to, it's going to be known that the sucker is going to hit the planet Earth, and there won't be nothing left. And every hand will be limp. And these people who were in Assyria, they were about to perish. But guess what? God intervenes. In Hosea 1, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And it shall come to pass, in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, there it shall be said to them, you are the sons of the living God. Then the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together, and they shall appoint for themselves one head, and they shall come out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel, the day when God sows. The point here being, God considers the children of Judah and the house of Israel two separate sisters, and they have been split apart. The house of Judah they were promised that they wouldn't lose their identity, but the house of Israel, they don't even know who they are. And yet, they are going to be numbered like the sands of the sea. Has to be a major population group. I submit that major population group is the United States and Great Britain. You can argue. Moving right along, and he will set up a banner for the nations and will assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. That gathering is once again referred to in Matthew 24. And Judah, they're scattered all over planet Earth. We probably have more Jewish people in New York than they do in all of Israel. And then it says, so the envy of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah will be cut off, and Ephraim will not envy Judah, and Judah will not harass Ephraim. Ephraim in this context is talking of the whole of the house of Israel. Ephraim was the dominant tribe, and occasionally in the scriptures it uses Ephraim as a euphemism for the whole of Israel. So we got these two people that seem to be knocking heads together right now. But that envy and that strife between the two will be ended. And then they being Israel and Judah, shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west, and together they shall plunder the people of the east, and they shall lay waste, and they shall lay their hand on Edom and Moab, and the people of Ammon shall obey them. And the Lord will utterly destroy the tongue of the sea of Egypt. With his mighty wind he will shake his fist over the river and strike it into 7 streams and make men cross over dry shod. The river, the Sea of Egypt, I suspect that's the Red Sea. Pardon me, I don't know for sure, but I think that's what. But this is showing you where the kingdom of Ammon, Moab, and Edom are. And that's basically today where Jordan is in control, nearly all of that. So that gives you an idea of, their boundaries are going to expand. And according to the scripture, it's going to go all the way down to the Nile and all the way up to the Euphrates. So Israel is not going to be a small place in the kingdom. And there will be a highway for the remnant of his people who will be left from Assyria, as it was for Israel in the day that he came up from the land of Egypt. Going to be a highway. I wonder how that's going to be formed. And in that day you will say, O Lord, I will praise you, though you were angry with me. Your anger is turned away, and you comfort me. Behold, God is my salvation. Anybody? What's the word for salvation there?
Passion.
Huh?
Passion.
Yeshua. God is my Yeshua. My Jesus, I will trust and not be afraid, for Yah, the Lord, is my strength and song. He has also become my Yeshua. Therefore, with joy you will draw waters from the wells of salvation. Wells of salvation. The wells of Yeshua. He will be present. He will be in the Holy of Holies. And from his body comes Mayim Hayim, living. And in that day you will say, praise the Lord, and call upon his name. Declare his deeds among the peoples, and make mention that his name is exalted. Sing to the Lord, for he has done excellent things. This is known in all the earth. Cry out and shout, O inhabitants of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel in your midst. To those who would say, oh, there is no millennial kingdom, that's just some sort of a esoterical thing, doesn't really exist. Someday it's just all going to be over with. Well, you got to deal with passages like this. Puts the Lord there. He is in Israel. And we're not talking about heaven. Moving on to chapter 13, the burden or the oracle against Babylon, by which Isaiah the son of Amoz saw. Lift up a banner on a high mountain. Raise your voice to them. Wave your hand that they may enter the gates of the nobles. Who's that banner on the high mountain? No, that's the Messiah. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have called my mighty ones for my anger, those who rejoice in my exaltation. I'm suspecting these sanctified ones, that's the church. That's me and thee. It looks like we've got it during the millennial reign. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like that of many people, tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of the nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts musters the army for battle. They come from a far country, from the ends of heaven. the Lord and his weapons of indignation to destroy the whole land. And wail, for the day of the Lord is at hand, and it will come as destruction from the Almighty. Well, they're coming from the ends of heaven, the Lord and his weapons of indignation to destroy the whole land. What do you suppose the weapons of indignation might be? Well, he's got this brown dwarf that he's got up there, all surrounded by meteorites. 100-pounders, they claim, trillions of them. And when we pass through the tail of that thing, well, you don't want to be here, and you won't. And it's the day of the Lord. And you can imagine these people that think they're in control of planet Earth have no idea about the Bible or what the prophecies have said. And they're thinking that, oh, we're smart. You know, there's too many people on this planet. There only needs to be 10 or 15 million. So, well, we know that this planet and basically small solar system is headed this way. We know exactly what it's going to do. We're going to save ourselves. We're going to go dig a hole in the ground and get in it. And we're just going to let this thing come over and wipe them all out. Remember when I first introduced you to this, there were things I couldn't explain. Nobody can understand. Why in the world would our government spend $1 billion on coffins? We originally thought those coffins were designed for one person, but they're not. They're designed for 4 bodies, and they're not designed to bury in the ground. They're designed for cremation. And they'll have crematories all over this place. And why do people like the IRS need 500 million rounds of 9mm ammunition? Well, they don't. But what are you going to do when you've got a whole bunch of people wounded? Like millions of people wounded. You going to take them to the hospital? There ain't no hospital. They got all pounded too. Well, the most humane thing you can do is shoot them. And that's the plan. And so that's why they keep asking these questions to some of our troops, saying, if you were given the order to fire on your own countrymen, would you do it? And if they say yes, they get to proceed on. If not, you get retired from the military eventually. They want a group of people that will be willing to go through the land and kill people. And
Did you hear that Congress is close to approving a space army
oh, a space army.
to defend our assets that are orbiting around the planet? I'm
Gee,
wondering.
I wonder who's going to be attacking them. Those pesky North Koreans, I'm sure.
Must be.
Yeah. Well, it gets stranger and stranger the more we learn, but everything seems to be focusing on the fact that the elite of this planet know something's about to happen.
But if they approve that, and if they start sending a bunch of stuff out to space, well, it only makes sense. They'd be setting up for the space army. They were sending stuff out to experiment or try to disguise, with red things, green things. You see, oh, that's just space army.
Yeah, it's our space army. And by the way, when this eclipse comes and you see that big red ball up there in the sky, that's one of ours.
That's our new space base.
Yeah, that's one of our space bases. And people will buy into it. Therefore, all hands will be limp and every man's heart will melt. I never understood why that was going to happen. I never understood. I know, like the scripture said it, so I believed it, but I didn't know how. But now we know how. There is an entity coming and nobody can stop it. And consequently, what do? Well, you wait to get squashed. And they will be afraid. Pangs and sorrows will take hold of them. Pangs, like birth pangs. And they will be in pain as a woman in childbirth. They will be amazed at one another, and their faces will be like flames. Well, they're going to be like flames because this thing is a huge source of infrared, and it's going to cook the surface of the planet. You heard?
Side burner on a fancy grill.
Yeah, this planet's going to get cooked. I mean, it's gonna be awful. Remember what was the admonition of the group that came out of great tribulation? One of the things it says, well, they wouldn't have to experience heat anymore because they were experiencing heat and a lot of it. So, when you got two suns in your atmosphere, and one of them is just a huge source of infrared, it's going to cook everything on the planet. That's one of the reasons why all the trees and all the grass is going to die. Infrared's going to kill them.
Warming.
It's global warming, all right. But it wasn't caused by CO2.
Internal combustion.
Caused by internal combustion of people. And behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel with both wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he will destroy sinners from it. Well, we never knew the mechanism, but we know it now. And if the things that we have heard about the tale of Nibiru, or the Nemesis brown dwarf, they are true, and that thing has just trillions of chunks of iron floating around in its tail, and the tail being about 1 million miles long. When the Earth goes through that thing, it's going to be like it's gotten hit with a shotgun.
Maybe that's where ruling with a rod of iron comes from.
May have something to do with it, wouldn't it? May have something to do with it. For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light, and the sun will be darkened in its going forth, and the moon will not cause its light to shine. Well, this implies that there is either a cloud of smoke and dirt in the atmosphere, or that this thing is in between the sun and us. And if it's in between, oh man, we got serious trouble, because right now we are 93 million miles from our sun. And if this thing pops in, say halfway, 45 million miles away, boy, it's gonna wreak havoc on this planet. It's made out of iron, mostly iron, which means it has a huge magnetic field and a huge gravitational field. And that magnetic field alone is going to cause the planet's poles to realign. They're going to want to point towards, North Pole to South Pole, and the world, and literally the world is going to be turned upside down. And I will make mortal man a mortal more rare than fine gold, and a man more than a wedge, a golden wedge of Ophir, which was a source of gold. If you read the Revelation account, people have said, oh, that's just symbolic. No, it's not. There's probably going to be about 90-95% of the population wiped out. And that's talking 7-8 billion deaths. This place is going to be a mess.
What does Georgia Guidestones say?
100 billion.
The Georgia Guidestones, won't they say something about reducing population to 500?
500 million? Yeah. I'm not familiar with that, but that would be a good number. And therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth will move out of her place. Well, years ago I would have said, well, God can do whatever he wants. He just speaks the word and the world will move out of its place. Well, there is a mechanism for it. And once again, it looks like to the unbelieving population that we were just unfortunate that our solar system had a binary, and that binary comes to visit us every 3,600 years. There's no God. This is just the way it is. And so there is no thinking that, well, this is God wreaking wrath upon our planet for our behavior. They just think we're just unfortunate. But he is going to literally move the planet out of its place. And all these things are going to happen. And the mechanism for it, we now understand. And it shall be as the hunted gazelle and as the sheep that no man takes up. For every man will turn to his own people, and everyone will flee to his own land. And everyone who is found will be thrust through, and everyone who is captured will fall by the sword. Doesn't sound And their children will also be dashed to pieces before their eyes, and their houses will be plundered and their wives ravished. So there's gonna be war going on at this time too. Apparently, the world isn't completely destroyed at the first brush with this thing, but apparently parts of the world are, but apparently the Middle East is the last to suffer. Because it says, I will send the Medes against them who do not regard silver, and as for gold, they do not delight in it. Who are the Medes? Huh? Well, it's not the Persians, it's the Kurds. Remember the Medo-Persian Empire? That was the Kurds, the ancient Kurds and the Persians. And it says the Medes are coming against them. Well, it's interesting now because right now, you know where Israel gets all of its oil? It's from the Kurds. And so the Kurds are going to turn them on them. And also their bows will dash young men to pieces, and they will have no pity on the fruit of the womb, and the eye will not spare the children. It's going to be an awful time. And it says their children dashed to pieces before their eyes. It sounds to me like that may very well be a meteorite shower that does that. But in the context, it sounds like it's the effects of war. And Babylon, the glory of the kingdoms, will be, and the beauty of the Chaldeans' pride will be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and it will never be inhabited, nor will it be settled from generation to generation, nor will the Arab pitch their tents there, nor will the shepherds make their sheepfolds there. What happened when God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah? Well, the admonition to Lot was, hurry and escape, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. That's where Lot escaped, yeah.
A little bit off the subject of what we're talking about right now, but it would seem reasonable to me that these so-called Bush people that, you know, a lot of them have heard a little bit of the word, but there's probably a vast majority of them that have not heard the word, or even seen a so-called white man. You know? And so what I'm trying to make the point is they're going to be raptured as well. Don't you agree? Do you think that
raptured? No. Why?
So?
The qualifications for a rapture is you have to rely on Yeshua HaMashiach, put all of your faith in him and no other. And you're leaning on the promise that he gives. How can they lean on the promise if they don't have one? My suspicion is God creates people for specific purposes. Most of people on planet Earth are bit players, and this is all there is for them. They are here for one reason, and that is to provide, well, I don't know what role they really yeah, they're kind of like walk-ons, but the whole purpose of this whole experience is to train you and I. We have been set apart. And this whole earthly existence down here is just a flash in the pan. God has big plans. He's looking for a hierarchy. He's looking for a government. He's looking for priests and kings. And as it says, the increase of his government shall be without end. And so this is a training process for us down here. And these other people that he has created simply for the process of, well, whatever effect they would have on us. Or it may be that he's put them here as another way to believe that all things are just random, and that there's an evolutionary process, and these people are a little lower down on the evolutionary chain. And I don't know, you can come up with all kinds of reasons why they may exist. Some of them, I believe, exist purely for the purpose of keeping those who are in the house of, and at least in the saved, to keep them on the straight and narrow.
That's always kind of troubled me that they're going to just be out there without any form of.
Well, didn't
I could say something though, that every year will, everybody will know. That before Christ come back, everyone has the opportunity to know. So we're not even.
There will come a time toward the end of the tribulation account where the angels will fly through the atmosphere with the gospel story. So these people are all going to have an opportunity. But some of them, you're right, don't. And that's God's business. You know, God gives, God takes away. And he does what he does.
Like you said, like a mechanism in the very end.
Yep.
To give them opportunity.
Well, they will have the opportunity, but let's face it, God knows from the end, from the beginning. He knows who will and who won't. And it's just like Paul. You know, Paul had a job to do. He was going about killing Christians, for heaven's sake, until he saw the light. So God turned him around and made him the greatest evangelist in the world. A lot of us owe our understanding of the scripture to Paul. And so God can do what he wants. If he wants some of those people, he'll get them. But the point here I wanted to make was that when the sun had risen upon the earth, when Lot entered Zoar, that's where his place of safety was. As soon as he entered his place of safety, what happened? The Lord rained fire and brimstone. And by the way, this fire and brimstone may have been a result of the last foray of Nibiru in planet Earth. And so there may be more here than what you would just observe. It may very well be a foretaste of what the world has to look forward to. The important thing is, he was in safety before all of that hit. As soon as the child was taken up to the throne room, then the dragon hit planet Earth. That's Babylon today, by the way. I mean, there's nothing there. Not even a goat herder there. Yeah, there's a truck driving by. You know, who was it? Saddam Hussein? He tried to rebuild the place. Wasted a lot of money on it. There ain't nobody there. There'll be less there. But the wild beasts of the desert will lie there, and their houses will be full of owls. Ostriches will dwell there, and wild goats will caper there. This was an attempt to take Hebrew words and make sense out of them. Because literally what this says is, wild beasts of the desert will lie there, and their houses will be full of howlers, and screechers will dwell there. And satyr, you know what's a satyr? It's a half goat, half man. It's a demon. And demons will caper there. And hyenas, that's howlers, will howl there. And jackals in their pleasant places. Her time is come, and the days will not be prolonged. The end. I did it. So Isaiah, you know, he was speaking awful things about the times that were coming. Times long into the future. Well, the future has come, and here we are. We are at the end of the age for all sorts of reasons. The Jews believe we're at the end of the age. And they're the ones that should know. They're inspired by God. The Jewish prophets foretold what was going to happen. But I find it very curious and interesting that it's only been within the last year that Revelation 12 suddenly made sense. It's just like God to do that, isn't it? He has his scriptures time released. And there would have been no reason for the last 2,000 years for people to know what's going to happen right now. And this theory of imminency, the Lord could come at any minute. Well, maybe that's the way it was and intended to be for the last 2,000 years.
Does Paul Begley ring a bell to you?
Yep.
I've been watching a few of his videos. He seems to have a little bit different take on it. I haven't watched just little bits and pieces of it. But, there's a whole series, you know, so it's not just.
Oh yeah, there are several of them that are very knowledgeable. I'm going to quit this right